First of all, what is Zapier for anyone? So people haven't heard of it. Essentially, workflow automation between services, between APIs, between services on the web, depends on how you see it. Their selling point, I mean, you saw, right? I could myself integrate things. I could go into the documentation, figure it out, deal with it, put in all the bits and pieces and everything. What Zapier says is, hey, give us a bunch of your money and we have it all figured out for you. That's their service. And they have a ton of apps that other services have already configured, a huge library, have already configured on Zapier. So they already work with each other, right? So that's the strength. And this is, I just took this from their website. This is an example they give. There's a trigger on Facebook when a new lead is generated, message on Slack. So Slack is a messaging service, and then create a new deal in the CRM on Salesforce. Boom, that's it. Like, you can do this in a few clicks. So imagine Appspotr at any one of these steps, and I'll explain to you how Appspotr does this and how you can do this with Appspotr. So it's essentially two things, and these are concepts to keep in mind. Zapier is not an API per se. Zapier is not a database, right? It's something that, it's basically a webhook builder, if I want to simplify it. So when something happens here at point A, do something there using this data. Or the other way around, when something happens there, do something here using that data. And you can add as many steps as you want, basically as much as you're willing to pay. They will, by the way, for pricing, you need to come with your own Zapier account. They have some included things for free. What they do is they charge you for the runtime, well, for the amount of steps that you run. That's it. So if nothing is triggered, it doesn't charge you. And if you use it, you consume it like you would consume SMSs, right? Okay. So enough ads for Zapier. Let's move back to Appspotr. How do we work with Zapier? Essentially, what we have done is we have connected data sets to Zapier, which is pretty powerful. I can give you the most basic example is we can then synchronize what is in a Google Sheet with what is in your data set. Or what they mentioned before is whenever you get a new lead on Facebook, for example, you can add an item in your data set, which you can then display in your app. Or send a message on Slack when you create something in a data set, right? How this works is, and how we connect with it is, you just need to generate an API key in the CMS and provide that to your Zapier account. And then Zapier will be able to communicate with Appspotr. And what it can do is trigger a Zap when an item is created in a given dataset, or updated in a given dataset, or deleted in a given dataset. And then also the other way around, from a Zap, you can add, edit, delete an item in a dataset when something happens. So yeah, a lot of word soup, word salad, but that's how it works. Our app is not public yet. However, I have provided this invite link here. And if you have a Zapier account, or if you have not created one yet, you can create one. It's free. They'll maybe ask you to put your card in, but it's a free plan, and you get a lot of Zaps you can test at the start. And by clicking on this link, you can add the Appspotr Zapier app to your account, right? So it's just there. You can use it if you want. You don't have to, but this is what we're going to be doing. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing the example I just gave you. I have a data set in my app, and when I add items to it, I would like those items to be in a Google Sheet. So if I have to take a real world example from this use case, is essentially you would have a form in your app that users can fill out. And when they fill out this form, it gets added into a Google Sheet. Any Google Sheet you want that you have access to. So essentially Google Forms, but with an app. And obviously you can do other things. You can send email. I mean, if we go to here, they have popular ways, and they have so many different connections. You can search through Twitter, Trello, Facebook, HubSpot, Discord, Airtable, Microsoft Outlook, Shopify. You could connect it to a shop. Yeah. Oh, they have SMS. You could send an SMS. You could connect it to the Dropbox. I don't know, Instagram, whatever you want, basically. I would say most of the popular and popular service on the web have it. All of the Google products have it, so that's nice. You could connect Sheets, Gmail, so you can send a customized email to someone, Drive. Yeah. Again, enough with the Zapier ad. It's amazing. What we're going to do is we're going to build something. So the first step is to have a Zapier account. And here I am logged into my Zapier account. Let me go back. Once you log in, it looks like this. You receive and you see these tasks here. You get a certain amount of tasks per month based on what plan you take. There's a free plan. And then, yeah, what's confusing is what they mean by task is actually one of these little steps here. All right. So that's important to keep in mind because it can get expensive if you add a lot of steps in one zap. And then they call them zaps. So you create a zap, and these zaps trigger when the events in the system happen. All right. So how it works is you have a Zapier account. Use the invite link in the previous slide so that you have access to the Appspotr app. Create a zap. All right. Let's do that. So I'm using just a personal account. And you'll come to this screen, which allows you to search through all over 3,000 plus zaps. Or, sorry, they call them, what do they call them? Yeah, a trigger that starts with your zap. And for some reason, it's taking forever to load. Do they have an issue? Oh, there we go. Here, you see, you can start from something else. Like, for example, you can start from a Slack message, which creates an item in the dataset or something else. But I'm going to start from Appspotr. And you see it's by invite. We will release it publicly, but using this link, you can get access to it. You click it there, and then you have a bunch of different things. So this is the trigger. This is, how do I say this? What will trigger these steps to run? Okay, it's a workflow automation. So what triggers this workflow? Think of it like that as well. I'm going to say new dataset item in dataset. So it's a mouthful, but there we go. New dataset item in dataset. When a new dataset item is in a new dataset, this will trigger. And then the next thing they will ask you is, hey, you need to choose an account. Okay, what does that mean? Click here. Okay, I'm cheating. I have some stuff configured, but you will get a connect a new account button. Click it. Up comes this pop-up. You see where it says, allow Zapier to access your Appspotr account. And it says your Appspotr API key. What is an API key, Kevin? Well, it's something that gives access. So this should be created from inside Appspotr. So in Appspotr, create your key. All right, keep this open. Don't close it. It's a pop-up. It's fine. Where is this located? If you go all the way down, you see you have something called access control. There we go. And in access control, you have something called API. And in here, I've already created a key, so it's there, but it's the same UI where you can go and create. Call it whatever you want, webinar 4, for example. And this is the important part. Once I click create, this key will automatically copy to your clipboard, so you can just paste it. So let me go now and paste it here. Yes, and continue. Ta-da. On the wrong window. And then the important part is once you close this, you will not see this ever again. For security purposes, we do not store this key, this API key. It's up to you to store it somewhere, but also don't worry about it. If you lose it, just delete or create another one. But I would say clean up these keys because they actually give access they give the external system access to your app, right? So you want to make sure it's secure. If you've lost track of your keys, just delete them and create a new one. And then you can add them again. So what happens now in Zapier, you see, it understands there's an app called Webinar 4. So this is an app. Let's see. There's an app called Webinar 4, which it is connected to. And you see there's a bunch of other connections I made. It says number 2 because it's the second connection I've made. So it shouldn't matter. And then what the next step is, once I've selected my Appspotr app and I've configured my account and yada, yada, I can search my available data sets. And I have a data set called items, you see? Let me double check that that's true. So it's pretty cool. Like, oh, here, see, items. There you go. Let's select that. And now what Zapier wants to do, this is important. What Zapier wants to do, it wants to test every single step every single time before you go to the next one, because it allows you then to see what you're connecting. So this is really cool. So what you have to do is you have to go into your data set that you've created, create whatever you want, and you have to just create a test item. That just makes it work. Otherwise, you can't really see what you're doing, and it's a bit complex. All right. And then I continue, and they're going to test it. We found the dataset item, and then you see they found the first item here. I have a column called A1 with hello in it, and A2 with hello in it, and then there's a bunch of other data you can use, but you don't have to. Continue. Voila. That's it. Now we go on to the next action. All right. We're back. There. So I've configured a dataset item, and they say it's okay, and they showed me example data. Next step is, what's the next step? What should I have? And I talked about having a sheet, right? So here you can select the Google Sheet. Before you select a sheet, it's good that the sheet exists. Otherwise, you won't be able to configure it. So what I recommend is just go into your Drive, create a sheet, give some nice column names. Then it makes sense to you. And you can see I've already tested this earlier. And I just called it ID and answer 1 and answer 2. The reason I have ID is because then you can get like I was saying, you can get the reference to the item that was created, because then you can do something with it later. But you don't have to, it's optional. So let's select Google Sheets. Again, it's the same kind of setup as with us. They have a lot of different things, right? But we want to create spreadsheet row. Create a new row in a specific spreadsheet. Okay, this is exactly what we want in our example. Continue. Choose an account. Yes, I have an account connected, but you will need to connect an account. It will just do the Google login pop-up. You select it. Voila. Continue to next, and then it's a few things. Select which drive it's from. So I have a few drives, but my Google Drive is where I put my sheet. So this is, you're just telling it where the sheet is. And then my spreadsheet is called webinar. So you'll see all your webinar responses. There we go, that's the spreadsheet. And then they'll ask you also for the worksheet, worksheet 1. And you see automatically they read the worksheet, and they have this is from them, they have the ID answer 1, answer 2, because it comes from here. You see? Sorry, I'm switching to another tab, but you can't see it. I've entered these as column names in my sheet. I'll show you that in a second. You see? So what you do is you do exactly what they say here, enter text or insert data. Okay, so when I click here, you get a bunch of options, and you can see from new dataset item Appspotr, you can see a few options that pop up. See? A1, A2, author, created, updated ID. So let's click this. You can also just type in data, but the interesting part is to take something from another system. You see, from Appspotr, we take A1 and we put it in answer 1. From Appspotr, we take A2. And you see, we're building this sort of pipeline of things that are going to happen. And now let's continue. So now what's going to happen when there we go, it's kind of happy. When I click test and continue, it's going to create another item. I will show you. So I'll show you in a second. What happens here now is you can publish the Zap. Publish the Zap means it starts just triggering and working. So let's do that. Publish and turn on. Okay. It takes a few seconds and then it becomes enabled. And then you can sort of see the Zap history and you can see it being triggered. All right, and I'm gonna, there we go. This is what I was doing. So it's all set up, it's on, it's running. You can click to see the Zap history and you come here. It doesn't run apparently. And then what I was showing you earlier is I created a sheet here called webinar responses, where I've added these column names, you see? And you can see it has already created 2 items. So let me just delete this row because it's a duplicate now. So you see that I have the same item here and there. And now let's try and just add an item and say, hello, webinar. This is what should come in a 2. Save. A lot of text. Magical. There we go. It's Google Forms, but with apps, with Appspotr. I could also add another step, and I could say send an email. I could, yeah, you get the gist of this. And then you're thinking, hey, but you're not doing anything special. You're just adding data manually here. But I showed you in a previous webinar that it's possible to create items from in an app using logic blocks. So you could build an app where you collect data, or well, users fill out a form or add a new item in something, and then that item could be sent anywhere else, essentially. It can also be done the other way around. It's possible to make it so that when I type something in here and press enter, it gets added in here. You can do it both ways. There is one warning I would like to, one thing I would like to point out as a warning, because we did this accidentally internally, is that if you do that, if you set up both at the same time, you're creating a loop, meaning that you're creating a scenario where something will get created here, and then when something gets created here, it will get created here, and it will be infinite, and you will consume all of your available zaps. We accidentally did that while developing this. But lessons learned, and now I can provide you with the warning so you don't make the same mistake. All right, so this was my Zapier example. You see, so I set up a Zap, I connected it with a data set, and I passed data to it. And what I did was I'm essentially synchronizing data with my data set. That's how it works.